when a drunk driver swaggered into our pediatric ER and threatened to block an ambulance carrying a 6-year-old in critical condition. I knew the night could turn deadly. It was my second night on the security booth. 1:52 a.m. Fluorescent lights humming in a steady sterile buzz. The ambulance bay already buzzing with the low thrum of equipment and hurried footsteps. A little girl lay strapped to a stretcher, her tiny chest rising and falling under the soft hiss of a ventilator. Monitors ticking a rapid, anxious rhythm. Heart rate spiking. Oxygen saturation wavering. Two paramedics, one a tall man with a shaved head and the other a woman whose hair was pulled back in a tight braid, were fastening a cold gel pack to her forehead and checking 4 lines while the chief of surgery shouted over the intercom. Another critical patient inbound. Clear the bay. The bay was already crowded with a gurney, a crash cart, and a rolling defibrillator. I checked my watch, the second hand clicking in time with the beeping of the girl's monitor, and watched the paramedics wheel the stretcher toward the bay. The polished concrete reflected the harsh light, and the smell of antiseptic mixed with a faint sour tang of disinfectant wipes. Then the metal clang of a car door slammed shut, reverberating off the tiled walls. A slurred voice barked, "Move your damn truck!" A swaying man stumbled out of a dark sedan, the smell of gasoline and stale beer clinging to his coat. His hair was matted, his eyes glassy, and he staggered as if the floor were a moving platform. He stared at the stretcher, then at me, as if I were the only thing in his way. "I'm a senator's son. I can do whatever I want," he snarled, waving his hand like he could command the ambulance with a flick of his wrist. "Move or I'll call the mayor." The girl's heart rate spiked again, the monitor flashing a bright red line, her oxygen level dipping. The operating theater was on standby, lights dimmed, surgeons poised to cut. I felt every eye in the room on us, the beeping monitors, the low hum of the night, the paramedics' tense shoulders. I stepped out of the booth, boots thudding on concrete, the weight of my badge cool against my chest. "Sir, please step back," I said, keeping my voice steady despite the adrenaline coursing through me. He twisted his face, his nostrils flaring. "You're blocking my way. I don't care about your little patient. I'm not going to be stopped because I'm a senator's son." He pulled out his phone, the screen shaking as he fumbled with it. "I'll post this on social media. I'll show how little you care about the big people." I remembered the training line. When the situation escalates, use your presence, not your force. I kept my hands open, moved slowly toward him, feeling the rubber soles of my shoes grip the floor. "Sir, a child's life is on the line. If you block the ambulance, you could cause a death." He laughed, harsh and unhinged, the sound echoing off the metal railings. "You think I'm a child? I've got a senator's son in me." He jabbed his phone at my chest. "I'll call the mayor, the governor, and I'll post this live. You'll look bad." Adrenaline surged, but I stayed calm, letting the training guide my tone. "I'm here to keep everyone safe. If you're angry, I can get a police officer or a supervisor right now." He glanced at the cheap camera in my pocket, about to hit record. I pressed my palm flat against his shoulder, gentle but firm, feeling the tremor of his grip. "Let me help you, sir. I'll get the police. Let's keep this place safe for everyone, especially the little girl." He grunted, the threat in his voice softening just enough for the words to slip through. I pulled my radio from the belt, the static crackling as I dialed 911. "Dispatch, this is Security 12. We have an intoxicated driver blocking the ambulance bay. Critical pediatric patient on a stretcher, oxygen dropping." The dispatcher's voice was calm. "Hold your position, officer is en route. Do not engage physically." I repeated the details, the urgency in my voice matching the rising beeps of the monitor. The driver hissed, "I'm calling the mayor, the governor. You'll all regret this." The night stretched, each second feeling like an eternity for the girl whose chest rose in shallow gasps. Minutes later, a patrol car rolled in, its lights painting the bay in red and blue. The officer stepped out, badge glinting, his eyes scanning the scene with practiced efficiency. "Sir, you're under arrest for obstruction of an ambulance and public intoxication," he said, firm but respectful, his voice carrying over the hum of machines. The driver looked at the officer, then at me, his anger draining into a mix of embarrassment and resignation. He stepped back, shoulders slumping, allowing the paramedics to move the stretcher without delay. The paramedics lifted the girl, the gurney gliding over the polished floor, and wheeled her into the operating theater. The surgeon, a middle-aged woman with steady hands, met us at the door, nodding with relief. "Thanks for your help," she said, her voice low but grateful. "Without you we would have lost precious time." The paramedics exchanged a brief look of respect, their faces still flushed from the rush. The driver was handcuffed, his phone clutched like a lifeline, and led away toward the waiting police cruiser. As the doors closed, the bay cleared, the monitor steadied, the girl's breathing normalized. I returned to my booth, the hum of the hospital a quiet backdrop. I had walked into a scene that could have become a tragedy and defused it with calm presence and a few words. So EMTs, the next time a drunk driver blocks your ambulance bay, remember, a steady voice and a willingness to help can turn a dangerous moment into a story of courage and calm. Stay alert, stay respectful, and never underestimate the power of a single measured word.